Abora Boye, this is Olu Fakolade of Idinka IFA Temple. We welcome you. Thank you for joining us.
Aboru Boye gbogbo awo Aboru Boye ẹ̀yin babaláwo èèyàn Ìbọ̀rù Boye.
Thank you all for tuning in with us, tapping in with us. This is Olu Fakolade of Idinka IFA Temple, and this is our Sunday service. So we always want to begin with prayer. Share. Mojuba Olorun, Mojuba Leda, Mojuba Olodumare, Mojuba Bobo Rumale, Mojuba Bobo Imale, Mojuba Bobo Egun Tembili, Soloromare, Mojuba Oshungwade, Mojuba Gwade, Mojuba Frog, Damas, Mojuba Tor, Mojuba Flori, Mojuba Pala Coriente, Mojuba Philip is all the way to Mojuba Gunjobi, Mojuba Miye, Mojuri Shamola, Mojuri Shalanko, Mojomi Tunade, Mojuba Shubi, Mojuba Sijman from the first. One Baba, Tia Baratu. A jogbe. He who hears people's pleas accept the pleas. He who hears people's pleas includes the pleas. He who talks to people and ensure that the talks are completely absorbed. He who hears people's pleas accept the pleas is the name of IFA. He who hears people's pleas improves pleas is the name of Shodar. He who talks to people and ensures that the talks are completely absorbed is the name of Orishanla. Orishanla, you the person knows whom beings. The person knows one cannot fail to impress one. Strike frogs on some rainfall, bull frogs on some downpour. It is whatever that original poem. He tells earth what earth accepts. Whatever the big rat tells earth what earth accepts. All what I tell you, if I please accept and approve them. Oh, Tourette, to show gratitude upon gratitude, the of all gratitude. To display benevolence upon benevolence is the of all benevolence. Whoever's not your gratitude for yesterday's benevolence, such a person now see today's gratuity. These were the declarations of IFA to the 401 Rumala going to marry your player, daughter of Ishiguji. These also declaration IFA to Rumala going to marry your player, daughter of Ishiguji. I'm grateful I see my gratuity. Awa dupe, awa bure, awa dupe, awa bure. Adúpẹ́ àná wa òwúrẹ́ tó nẹ́bù Olódùmarè àwa dúpẹ́ àwa àbúrẹ́ àwa dúpẹ́ àwa àbúrẹ́ adúpẹ́ àná wa òwúrẹ́ tó nẹ́bù orí ẹni àwa dúpẹ́ àwa àbúrẹ́. Àwa dúpẹ́ àwa búrẹ́. A dúpẹ́ àná wa òbúrẹ́. Tùnẹ́bù èrú mọ̀lẹ́. Àwa dúpẹ́ àwa búrẹ́. Àwa dúpẹ́ àwa búrẹ́. A dúpẹ́ àná wa òbúrẹ́. Tùnẹ́bù lẹ́gùn lóríṣà. Olodumare and the divinities, we thank you for life, health, strength, food, clothing, and shelter. We thank you for all the things that you have provided for us. We ask for forgiveness. And you're also a tutu. Pounded yam without soup can be very difficult to consume. These are the decorations. Viva to a tutu, the child of Agbeneregun. He was full of bad character. Whose bad attitude had prevented him from entering Tifa's domain. Now come to solicit on behalf of the tutu. We've come to beg on behalf of the tutu. Father, please be patient. Overlook this provocation. Those who beg on behalf of tutu. How many children does IFA have that he will cast one out? Those who beg on behalf of Tutu, I share. Obe Lara. Orumila said it is time to sleep. I echoed it's time to sleep. When the day dawned, I met a room in the 16th room where he covered his head with a flowing gown full of lice. He was wearing a dress full of bloodstains. He was snoring heavily. They told him that a delegate from his side arrived A roomland crowd about what the delegate had brought. They told him they brought 2 rats with running, 2 fish graceful swimming, 2 birds swift in flight, and 2 goats with big livers. A roomland said that's not enough to wake him up. I admit my ignorance, please educate me. Montuna Karaba, I hide myself in your bosom and survive. Montuna Karaba, the dog king masquerade who beats the Agba drum repeatedly. The dog king masquerade who beats the Agba drum repeatedly to perform rituals because of children. You are the leaders, we are the followers. Leaders are the ones who show the followers wisdom. The roomlet told them to get alligator pepper, to get cola nut, to get bitter cola, to get alcohol. The copper got the alligator pepper, got the cola nut, got the bitter cola. Now that he is fully awake, Arumla, when you're fully awake, please look at me with eyes of compassion. It is with eyes of compassion that the heavenly stars use to look at the stars below. Arumla, when you're fully awake, please look at me with your eyes which help one to secure great wealth. It is such good eyes that the heavenly stars use to look at the stars below. Arumla, when you are fully awake, please look at me with eyes which help one to bear many children. It is such good eyes a child could use in looking at a well-decorated plate. Before long, not too far, join us in the midst of all IFA in life. Before we call on Oshe Torah to manifest all of our prayers, we ask that you will continue to ward off death, ward off sickness, cases, controversy, ward off fights, litigation, losses in our fights, ward off witchcraft and negative forces from us. Bring to us long life, wealth, children, healing, joy, victory. Oshe Torah. Tiny are the feet of Tubu. The striped chameleon is not big enough to use his headgear. Had it been enough to use his headgear, I would have taken it home and adorned my head with it. These we find decorations to Orola. We're going on spiritual mission to Jebelan. We call on locals being selling, pay money. Call on salsa and make it rich. We call on Aruela with respect and in Jebelan. Oh shit, Aruela's a good awo. Oh shit, try. I kick in it bagisa. The extract sharp against a tree. Oh shit, try. I kick in it bagisa. Cassie five for Rumlon, Houston, Iba, and Ashe from Olodumare. If you're not well tells you should be wealthy, you should surely be wealthy. I kick anybody sign. The mouth of an owl, Zati Banashe, in the mouth of an owl. If no one tells you have joy, you should surely have joy. I kick anybody sign. In the mouth of an owl, Zati Banashe, in the mouth of an owl. If no one tells you have peace, surely peace. I kick anybody sign. In the mouth of an owl, Zati Banashe, in the mouth of an owl. If no one tells you have healing, you should surely have healing. I kicking it bagisa in the mouth of an owl, Zazibana in the mouth of an owl. If no to have all good things in life, you should surely have all good things in life. I kicking it bagisa in the mouth of an owl, Zazibana in the mouth of an owl. To esin, maybe so, surely shall it be. Ashe orisha lẹ́nu mi o, ashe orisha lẹ́nu mi. Gbogbo tí mo bá màmá wí o, ìrọmọlẹ̀ ò bà, Ifá ò bá o, àṣẹ òrìṣà lẹ́nu mi. Bí mo dúró, tí mo súre, bí mo bẹ̀rẹ̀, tí mo súre, bí mo kúnlẹ̀, tí mo súre, bí mo jókòó, tí mo súre, ire tí mo sú orí ti bọ́. Orí ẹni làrúre ẹni o, orí ẹni làrúre ẹni. Mọ̀júlọ mi fa wá mọ́rí, orí ẹni làrúre ẹni. Ṣé bòbòrè chásù, Ifá ò bá lọ́rùn, àti bàṣáájú, Ifá ò bá lọ́rùn. Oshe aru ila ifatibo. Olodumare and the divinities, we thank you for life. We thank you for health. We thank you for strength. We thank you for food, clothing, shelter. We thank you for all the blessings that you have given us. We ask that you would move the negative things out of the way and bring long life. Give us good spouse, good health, good children, peace of mind, joy, victory, and all the good things of life. Father, we ask that you would move my ego out of the way so that we can hear a word of good Ifa. Help us to hear a word of truth at this time. Help us to hear good and good and good Ifa. Emma kame mene amo, Emma kame mene ano, Emma kame mene adelo kun. Tamole tori Ifa loni mi. Ebora timpanini, enebanami, awon ati ifa lelejo. Ifa, we thank you. We thank you so much for this day. We thank you for allowing us to congregate um, at a distance and in person. We thank you so much. So today we're going to have a very, very unique IFA conversation. And our IFA conversation today is going to be on the topic of courage. Our topic, once again, is going to be on the subject of courage. Courage, and as we embark on this discussion of what this process is, I want to begin by defining perhaps what courage means within the context of what we want to deal. So when we think of courage, I look it up in Webster's dictionary, and in the dictionary, it says courage is the ability to do something that frightens one. So courage is that ability of someone to do something that is initially makes them fearful, but to push past that. So an essential aspect of courage is overcoming fear. Another aspect of courage is strength in the face of pain and or grief. So courage is also an ability to persevere, the ability to persevere and get past certain challenging things. So when we think about this, I want to talk about also the importance of why we're coming to discuss this idea of of fear and overcoming it and having courage. So the key today, in my opinion, is that there's always a time and a place for specific actions. Today, I want to discuss the aspects of IFA that support us in the time when it comes to speak up. Today, I want to discuss the aspect of IFA that supports um, the time, uh, the time that we have had patience and we have been good and patient and followed what IFA has said. But I want to discuss today the after effects of patience when patience meets timing. What happens when you've listened to IFA and IFA says, now is the time to claim your rights. Now is the time to speak up. Now is the time to stand your ground. I want to discuss that dimension of IFA. The aspect of IFA that says, stand up and be heard, stand up and be counted, because that too is a very important aspect. We talk so much about patience, we talk so much about iwapuele, but also there's a time to act, and those times when it is time to act are also not outside of the context of what we know to be iwapuele. It's important to mention as we make this discussion, this sermon, that I'm not advocating tempting any of the ajogun or negative forces, not to thrill seek, but I'm saying that there are moments when we are called to move. There are times when challenging people, challenging situations, tenacious illnesses, protracted problems, and things that worry us, and those things, when they put themselves in the way of our destiny, and we are placed in a position where we must fight or lose ground. What does what does it mean to fight the righteous fight. What I want to discuss today and explore is the tactics of the concept of righteous fight and or righteous courage when it comes to IFA. So first, let's talk about tactics. Let's explore various tactics before we analyze moving past these other aspects which can be associated with fear. And when we think about this, as I said before, courage is essential aspect is the ability to push past fear. And hopefully by the end of this sermon, we'll understand that the biggest downfall is fear. In the Odu Ifa Odimeji, Ifa says, a cork uses its mouth as a seal against uprising. Owawa, the tree Heinrichs, uses his voice as a weapon. He who hears the voice of Oluboro bird from afar, he would think that if it is not as big as an elephant, it will certainly be bigger than a buffalo. When Oluboro bird crouches, it is not as big as a hen. These were Ifa's declarations to Irin Wonwon, the son of Ogun. When he was in the midst of enemies, he was advised to offer a bow. He complied. So on this Ifa, this is the verse that discusses Irin Wonwon, which is the child of Ogun. And basically, Irin Wonwon was surrounded by enemies, and his enemies at every turn said that they wanted to kill him, said that they wanted to destroy him and ensure that he was not able to accomplish his mission in life. They wanted to ensure that Irin Wonwon had nothing left. And Irin Wonwon was afraid. He was scared. So he went to cast Ifa. And when he casted Ifa, the Babalao told Irin Wonwon, what you need to do is stand your ground. You need to stand your ground, and also you need to raise your voice. As this verse talks about Oluboru bird. If you see it, if you can't see it, it would hear it, you would think that by the sound of its voice, if it is not as big as an elephant, it is certainly bigger than a buffalo. Fastest, but when Oluboru bird crouches, it is not as big as a hen. So what Ifa is talking about is Irin Wonwon needed to speak out. He needed to yell. He needed to let himself be heard. And that would be the tactic which would stop all of his enemies. So Irin Wonwon, he offered the abo, but he was still very afraid. He was, of course, afraid, and he was also small in size. His enemies were much bigger than him. So he was intimidated. So finally the day came where Irin Wonwon came across his enemies. His enemies saw him from afar, and they quickly approached him, and they were ready to pounce, and he was scared. I imagine that he began to shiver. And then he remembered what the Babalao told him to do. And he thought for himself, he had nothing to lose. So Irin Wonwon yelled. And as he let out a yell, one of his teeth flew out and hit his enemy and killed his enemy. He yelled again in the direction of another enemy, and the tooth flew out and hit his enemy and killed him. And as Irin Wonwon kept yelling in the direction of his enemies just fell. All of them fall, 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 fall. Ifa says Irin Wonwon was the gun. That was the name. That is who Ogun's son is. So we think about the power of this weapon, the firearm, and understand that it too is smallish in size, but just as small as the size of the gun is. When it unleashes, you would think the damage that a firearm would create, just as the size of the Oloboro bird is, it is as big as an elephant. And if it is not as big as an elephant, it is bigger than a buffalo. Ifa is saying that even though you may be smallish in size, that you, by following the tactics of Ifa, will be able to be victorious over them, even if they are greater than you. On the Ifa verse of Okarameji, Ifa says, "The breeze which blows the farm trees gently and quietly, and the tempest is it which blows the leaves, the coconut leaves, strongly and violently. The newly sprouted palm fronds do not inform each other before they spring up." These were Ifa's declarations to Awa Itila or Awa Itula, he who searched for his goat and became prosperous, who said that he has a he goat who got lost. He must go search for it. He was advised to offer a boat. He complied. Before long, not too far, join us in the midst of Ife. So this Ifa is actually a story about Shango. And it's a time when Shango had a prized possession, a prized pet. And this prized pet was his pet goat. And so Shango had his prized possession, pet goat. And as he walked with his goat, everyone in the community knew this is Shango's goat. And he loved this goat. The goat was very valuable to him. Until one day, the goat disappeared. And Shango was angry. He didn't know what to do because he began looking for his goat and he couldn't find his goat. He couldn't find that prized possession in which he valued the most. He couldn't locate it anywhere. So what ended up occurring is Shango went and cast Ifa. And Ifa said, Awa Itula, which is he who searched for his goat and became prosperous. He was advised by the Babalao, don't be afraid. But what you need to do also is not destroy the people. What you need to do is go and threaten. And threaten legal action, threaten spiritual action, threaten to sue, threaten to destroy, but only leave it at that. So Shango then went into the community after he had offered his abo, and then he began to say, you know what, if y'all don't give my he goat, I'm going to sue everyone here because you're partly responsible. Matter of fact, and after I sue, I'm coming through with a storm and I'm doing this. And he began to say all these things that he was gonna do and what was gonna happen to the people of this town. And then he went home. And before the end of the day, people began to come and they said, "Oh, Shango, I have a goat. I know this isn't your goat, but you can have this goat." "Yes, Baba Shango, here's a goat from me and my family. I don't want any problems. You can have this goat." And before the end of the day, Shango had more goats than he could count. Ifa is speaking of tactics here. When when Ifa charges you to have courage, there's also a tactical means by which you need to adhere to in order to be successful. So, in many stories, many times, Orunmila had challenges with death or other Ajokun. And I want to talk about at least three stories, three IFA verses where Orunmila had challenges with Eku and what he had to do in order to overcome death Eku for himself and overcome death or Eku for all of us. So I want to begin with a story from the Odu Ifa known as Ogunda Meji. Ifa says, Olo bonu bonu, the beetle is it which hums in its unstable flight. This was Ifa cast for Orunmila when going to snatch away Pupayemi palm oil, the wife of Iku. He was advised to offer a bow. He complied. Before long, not too far, join us in the midst of victory. So this is an interesting story, not only about courage, but also overcoming death. At this particular time, Pupayemi, which is also known as palm oil. And when you think about palm oil, everyone in Ifa, every person needs palm oil. It's essential in food items that we prepare. It is essential in um, offerings, in preparations. It's it's like bread and butter in terms of what we as Ifa followers need and what we have. So palm oil is essential. Imagine a time when palm oil was taken away from the world. Iku decided to possess palm oil, to take her. And as he took her, he then hoarded her and hoarded the palm oil from the world. He kept it from the world. He kept palm oil from everyone. So everyone around the world was in need of palm oil and they couldn't get it because she was, in essence, imprisoned in the home of death. At this time, Death was also abusing her. He was berating her and he was doing domestic violence to his wife Pupayemi. He was abusive. And Pupayemi was very scared, but she also, along with being scared, she had what I would consider to be like a battered spouse's syndrome. So she was afraid to stay and afraid to leave. And one day, while she was at the market, she saw Orunmila, and their eyes met, and they fell in love. Orunmila loved Pupayemi, but he also realized that Pupayemi was in trouble. Pupayemi was in so much trouble that he had to figure a way to liberate her so that she could then be his wife. He went to Castifa. The Babalao said that, yes, it is your destiny to do this. You need to get Pupayemi, and you need to liberate her from Iku. In the process of doing this, what you also need to do is you need to let all of your children, all of your family members know exactly what you want to do, exactly how you want to handle it. So Orunmila offered his ebo, and then he began to share with his family members what he wanted to do, and he had the blessing of his other children and other family members. He went and proposed to Pupayemi, and he brought her to his compound. Of course, Eku realized up, she's gone. And he did a fact-finding mission, and he decided, oh, she's with Orunmila. And as this occurred, Orunmila already knew that there was going to be war. There was going to be a problem. So he began to prepare his Ifa preparations. He began to make his charms. He began to basically prepare for war. And this is like a war that he fought in defense of palm oil, in defense of Pupayemi. And in this process, he, as I said before, Rumla was told to tell all of his children, all of his loved ones, exactly what was going to happen, what was about to go down, that there's a war in the air as a result of this, bringing this woman home and liberating her. So Orunmila did all those things and was prepared. On the faithful day, when Eku saw Orunmila from afar, and Orunmila knew what it was, they knew what it was, and they went to fighting. And as they began this fight, Eku was throwing charms at Orunmila, and Orunmila was blocking them, and he was throwing his own charms, his own akoshes back at Eku. And Eku was throwing charms and other things, and at a certain point, the fight was even. And then Eku went away, went back to his house in the middle of the fight and got more charms. He came and he threw some charms at Orunmila, and they hit Orunmila very, very hard. And much of Orunmila's charms and even Eku's charms became totally destroyed as a result of the beginning of this battle. At about the midpoint, everyone started to feel bad for Orunmila because Orunmila was being defeated. And it became very clear that Orunmila was going to lose this fight. It wasn't until one of Orunmila's sons came to Orunmila and said, Baba, remember, you have a charm called Ojoku Tayin, which is the eyes don't see what's happening behind one's back. Orunmila used that charm and was able to sneak behind Eku and gain the upper hand and win. On this Ifa, one of the major things is that Ifa is saying that you have to follow Ifa's advice. Had Orunmila not shared all the messages with his family and also shared, look, I'm an Ifa practitioner, these are the things that we use in the case of a problem. Go and cast Ifa. In case of a problem, tell your children, go cast Ifa, go have Ifa cast for me. If I can't cast it myself, if I can't think to do it, go and tell your children. If you have charms, medicines, and things in the house, let them know. This is what I use to heal. This is what I use to protect the home. And that is what Orunmila did. Had he not done that, Orunmila would have lost that battle. Also, in the event of challenge, Orunmila need not show fear. So when we think of all of these things, another essential aspect, as I said many, many times in this discussion, is in the face of the Ajogun, in the face of death, in the face of challenges, do not show fear. In the Ifa verse, which is Ogbeka, Ifa says, Ogbeka re kakaja, Ogbe, let us go into the inner room for a fight. This was the Ifa cast for Orunmila when he was going to challenge death to a duel. In the main compound, he was advised to offer a bow. He complied. We have hit death with Abo staff. We have touched death with fear, pain, and confusion. So this was a time when Orunmila actually challenged Iku to a fight, a duel. And in this, many times people who get this Odu, some folks say, well, they have they have they exhibit thrill seeking behavior. Because as I said before, Orunmila definitely challenged death to a fight, to a duel. He said, on sight, whenever I see you is on. But the key to this is Orunmila was able to cast Ifa. He casted Ifa, and when he casted Ifa told him exactly what he needed to do. He needed to offer a bow and get this staff called abo, and this staff has it's the bark is kind of powdery, and there are like kind of blotches or spots on it. So he was told to take that and sleep with it underneath his pillow. And on the faithful day when he was to fight Iku, Orunmila used the staff and he hit Iku. The thing of it is when he hit Iku with the stick, it rubbed off and left powdery marks all over Iku's body, and Iku thought it was something else. And what was happening is Iku became afraid. It says we have touched death with fear, pain, and confusion. So one thing Ifa is saying is, what is the thing that is greater than Iku? What is the thing that we should do our very best to avoid? Two main things: fear and confusion. In all of these stories, the way that Orunmila is able to be victorious is to strike fear in the life of the Ajogun. And when we think about striking fear in their lives, what we also need to be aware of is that we ourselves should do our very best to avoid fear. Fear is worse than death. That is why we must walk with courage. That is why with Ifa, mine is greater than all others. Last Ifa verse I want to share comes from the Odu Ogbe Ofun. Ifa says, Oluwowo Jiwowo. He was the Awo cast Ifa for Eku and revealed the same for fear. He cast Ifa for Orunmila when in the midst of enemies. He was advised to offer a bow against the Ajogun. He complied. Now, Oluwowo Ji, Odiji Oluwowo. If I see Iku, I will crush him. Oluwowo Ji, Odiji Oluwowo. If I sight Arun, I will destroy him. Oluwowo Ji, Odiji Oluwowo. I wish to see Ejo for me to destroy him. Oluwowo Ji, Odiji Oluwowo. It is my wish to sight Ofo for me to crush him down. Oluwowo Ji, Odiji Oluwowo. Travelers to Ifo in Ofa town, join us where we offer sacrifice to overcome enemies. Both Eku and Eru have no power over us. Ashe. So in this Ifa, Orunmila had learned Iku would come to the world. Iku in the other Ajogun would come into the world and they would do things and intimidate people. Iku would travel with like a staff that um, had the skulls of all the people that he had killed, and he would walk around with the hollowed out skulls on a staff, and people in the world, they would be completely scared, completely intimidated by Iku. Also, Arun, illness, Ofo, losses. They were completely afraid of these Ajogun who were out there amongst the world. And Orunmila wanted to find a solution to the problem because so many people of the world were intimidated. And the biggest thing that Orunmila was told to do was offer a bow and have no fear. Once you have offered a bow, then walk with confidence. He was also told he needed to offer a bow with um, 200 snails and utilize the shells and take all those snail shells and tie the snail shells to a string and hang them on a staff. So all 200 snail shells, Orunmila had to have those. And he gathered them, he offered the abo, and he then tied them to the stick. And he placed the stick, and he had a stick. And then when Iku came down, Iku had a stick. And Orunmila would walk, he was walking around and he would hit his staff on the ground. And imagine the sound of when you think about the snail shells, um, snails in Nigeria, they're like the size of my fist. So those are big. Those are big snails, and the shells are, they're very large. And imagine he had hollowed all those out and hung them on a staff, 200 to be exact. And as he was walking around, he was hitting his on the ground, and Iku was hitting his on the ground, and it began to be a challenging situation because Iku began to think like, man, I hear a lot of skulls shaking on that staff. Iku maybe had 3 or 4, 5 or 6, but he heard a cacophony of skulls, what he thought to be skulls, shaking on this staff. And then as Orunmila would hit his staff on the ground, he would say, Oluwowo G, Oluwowo, if I see death, I will crush him. Oluwowo D, Ojuwowo, if I see Arun, I want to see Arun so I can beat him up. I want to see losses so I can tear him down. I want to see him. Where are they at? Orunmila wanted all the smoke. So that then made death, sickness, losses, and all these Ajoguns shake in fear. They began to shake and tremble in fear, and what did they do? They left Orunmila and Orunmila's people alone. What is Ifa telling us? Ifa is saying, offer your abo. Listen to the advice, because when we cast Ifa, Ifa is going to give us an abo, but the other really powerful thing is Ifa is going to give us a word. Ifa is going to give us some game that's going to line us up. And when I say that, Ifa is going, when I say game is in my community, game means deep wisdom that you can profit from. So Orunmila was given this heavy game. You need to walk with courage, walk without fear. And imagine being able to have such confidence in the work and the prayers and the herbal preparations and the knowledge that you've gained. Imagine being so in tune and on point that you can say, you know what, if problems come, you know what, I want to see problems. My mother would always tell me that she would her when my grandmother would give them certain herbs, um every year you would get like maybe cod liver oil at the beginning of the year, and it would clean you out and boost your immune system and do all these things. And she would be like, and we wish the cold would come around, so we could fight it. And the thing of it is when you absorb the powerful and deep wisdom of Ifa, when I say that from take on this Ifa wisdom, I'm not just talking about the divination. I'm talking about the advice. Sometimes that advice is bigger than the abo, or it means more than the abo. The abo is merely a formality many times, but the key is the advice. And part of that advice is be confident. Because the moment, let's say Arumula is walking around with that staff and he was like, oh, shoot, I hope these snail shells scare Iku. Iku's like, what? Uh, Those are snail shells? Oh, we're going to come get them. Like, when Ifa gives us these deep aspects of wisdom, and in our earthly right or wrong mind, like, man, I don't know how this is gonna work. The moment we inject doubt, the moment when we inject fear, you know what, this might not work. You know what, I might as well. What did the doctor say? You know, like the moment we inject fear, the moment we inject doubt, what did the people say? What did the folks who are my friends, but they're also naysayers? What did they say? You want to go start a business, and somebody says, "Have you thought about it? The economy's bad right now. You might not want to start a business like that." Thanks, friend. You know, when you listen to that shred of doubt, you listen to that opening of fear, that then derails you from the true goal. That then stops you from hitting the mark. It's so important to maintain focus. And when we speak of that, what I want to say in closing is, as we offer a bow, as we go and get Ifa divination, as we come to Ifa temple, as we listen to Ifa messages, listen to them, absorb them into your spirit, your psyche, your DNA, and walk without fear. Don't fear nothing. And when I say that, I'm not saying be stupid. I'm saying walk with confidence in what you have done with God and the Irumula, because they won't let you down. Olodumare will not allow Olodumare's word or Ifa to come back void. The more we stand on those things and this idea of what we do from Ifa perspective, the moment it becomes something we know, uh, as opposed to something we believe. Like, I believe you're right. I believe Ifa's right. Yeah, I believe in Ifa. No, I know this to be true. I know And when you shift it from just the shifty, shaky aspect of believing, and you shift it into, no, I know this. No, this is that you hear so many folks down south. That's what I know. My grandmother used to say, that's what I know. She'd be in an argument with somebody, and the mother would be like, that's what I know. So when Ifa becomes that, where no one can shake it, and you actually know it, and it's correct, and it's on point, and it's in alignment, how can you be stopped? You will then say, I where is it cool? I want to fight it. But you got to have the right ammo. And Ifa is that. So thank you so much for joining us this Sunday for Ile Juba Ifa Temple service, for Idin Kai Ifa Temple. We thank you so much for joining us. I have a couple of announcements. So every other Friday, we're doing our conversations with Ifa. So every other Friday. So I would say first and third Fridays of the month, we do conversations with Ifa. So it's not necessarily a class, it's more like an opportunity to just have a conversation about particular topics that concern us in Ifa. And it's led by myself, and you have the opportunity to just have some FaceTime and also ask some questions that will help you to make good decisions and things like that. So it's conversations with Ifa. It's based on a particular topic. Every time I put the flyer out, I put the Zoom code on, and we are also open for donations. So those of you who have participated in conversations with Ifa, like this week, the topic we talked about was Isheshe Lukumi and spiritual devotion. So we're talking about some pretty interesting topics every other week. So if you're interested, the next one will not be this Friday. It will be Friday after next, like the movie, Friday after next. So join us. It's very good. Also, every third Thursday, we have Makings of Men. So Makings of Men is a group of the brothers, and we get together and talk about manhood, masculinity, Ifa, God, and the concept of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a righteous, on point individual. What are our responsibilities, rights, and roles? And also, sometimes it just turns out to be a space where men can kind of get together and detox, debrief, because we need spaces like that, and we need women to have spaces like this, and then we also need spaces where men and women can come together. So we're creating those spaces at Idin Kaifa Temple, and we have so much more to offer. So those of you who are interested, tap in with us. If you like the things that we're doing, you please donate. We use those donations to cover EBOs, to also support other people with EBO and other things within the community, and also cover costs. So we thank you all for all of the support that you've given to us, and also for tuning in with us. Hopefully within the next month, we will find a space here in Los Angeles where we'll be able to come together and meet face to face during this time period. So we look forward to doing that. All right, let's close. Olodumare, Almighty God, we thank you for life, health, strength, food, clothing, and shelter. We thank you for our families, our loved ones. I thank you for the life of my parents, my mother, my father, my wife, my children. I thank you for all of us that we're here. Help us to continue to move and groove on the path of Ifa, and move in the direction to make this world even better than it already is, to bring good stuff into this world more and better and better. Help us to have the courage and the faith and the fortitude to stand in this world that often works against our belief system, our knowing system, that will send you doubts through the television, on the radio, through the internet. Help us to remain focused in the midst of madness. And we thank you. Ashe, Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, Aboto. I'm Oluo Fakolade, Ebedinkai Fatimpo, and we thank y'all. Thank you.